Jason Carver. Jason was the embodiment of hysteria and misplaced anger in Season 4. As the captain of the Hawkins basketball team, he represented the town's refusal to accept the supernatural truth. After Chrissy's death, Jason blamed Eddie and led a manhunt, fueling the satanic panic narrative that consumed Hawkins. His obsession blinded him to reason, driving him to confront Lucas in the Creel house during the final battle. When Vecna's plan tore open gates between worlds, one of them split directly through Jason's body, killing him instantly. His death symbolized the collapse of Hawkins's denial and the price of fear-driven ignorance. Barbara Holland. Barb's death in Season 1 was the show's first major loss. She was Nancy Wheeler's best friend, smart, cautious, and uncomfortable with the popular crowd Nancy began to follow. Her disappearance at Steve's pool party led to her being pulled into the Upside Down, where she was killed by the Demogorgon. The town quickly forgot her, but the audience didn't. Fans launched the hashtag #JusticeForBarb movement, demanding recognition for a character who had been largely ignored within the story. The Duffers later admitted that Barb was written to give Nancy a personal connection to the supernatural events in Hawkins. Her limited screen time, just 2 episodes, amplified the tragedy of how easily she was forgotten. Bob Newby. Bob was created to die, but his death was delayed once Sean Astin was cast. Initially, the plan was for Bob to be an irritating boyfriend for Joyce, who would be killed early in Season 2. Instead, Astin's warmth transformed Bob into one of the show's most endearing characters, a kind-hearted, geeky optimist. His death came during the finale of Season 2, when the Hawkins lab was overrun by demodogs. Bob volunteered to restore the power system so the others could escape. He succeeded, but as he ran for safety, a demodog attacked and killed him in front of Joyce. The scene was emotional for both the cast and the audience. The Duffers have said the moment was inspired by Jaws, combining horror and heartbreak in equal measure. Billy Hargrove. Billy's introduction in Season 2 came from a narrative shift. Steve Harrington was originally written as a mean-spirited bully, but Joe Keery's charisma caused the writers to change course, turning Steve into a fan favorite. To fill the villain role, the Duffers created Billy, Max's volatile stepbrother, shaped by an abusive father and his own internal rage. Billy's story was designed to end with his death. In Season 3, he became possessed by the Mind Flayer and helped it capture victims. However, when Eleven accessed his memories, she saw the goodness buried beneath his cruelty. In the finale, Billy sacrificed himself to save Eleven, dying in front of Max. His death wasn't meant as redemption, but as a final moment of humanity from a broken character. The Duffers later revealed that this loss became central to Max's emotional journey in Season 4. Eddie Munson. Eddie's role followed a pattern the Duffers had already established: beloved newcomers who die heroically. He was introduced in Season 4 as the leader of the Hellfire Club, a misunderstood metalhead who became Hawkins' scapegoat after Chrissy Cunningham's death. Joseph Quinn's performance made Eddie an instant fan favorite, leading the writers to expand his part during the pandemic shutdown. When the group devised their plan to defeat Vecna, Eddie volunteered to distract the Demobats, performing a Metallica solo in the Upside Down. Instead of escaping, he stayed behind to buy his friends time. The Demobats overwhelmed him, and he died in Dustin's arms. The Duffers compared his sacrifice to Bob's, an emotional, selfless act that cemented him as a tragic hero. His death will reportedly have lasting effects on Dustin in Season 5. Chrissy Cunningham. Chrissy's death in Season 4 was the turning point that redefined the show's tone. She was the popular cheerleader at Hawkins High, admired by her peers but secretly suffering from severe anxiety and an emotionally abusive mother. Seeking relief, she turned to Eddie Munson to buy drugs, but during their conversation, the two formed a rare, genuine connection that showed a softer side of both characters. However, Chrissy had already been targeted by Vecna, the new supernatural threat. In one of the most disturbing scenes of the series, she was levitated into the air as her limbs snapped and her eyes bled before dying instantly. Her death inside Eddie's trailer framed him as a murderer and triggered the mass hysteria in Hawkins that fueled the rest of the season. Heather Holloway. Heather was a lifeguard introduced in Season 3. Her death marked the Mind Flayer's spread through Hawkins as it began to possess humans. When Heather noticed Billy acting strangely at the pool, she followed him, concerned for his well-being. That moment of empathy sealed her fate. Billy, already under the Mind Flayer's control, abducted her and brought her to the creature. She became one of the earliest victims of possession, acting as a puppet for the Mind Flayer's plans. Heather's zombified state and eventual death showed the physical and psychological horror that the Mind Flayer inflicted on its hosts, turning kind, ordinary people into tools of destruction. Dr. Martin Brenner. Dr. Brenner, known as Papa, was one of the most morally complex figures in the series. He was the head scientist at Hawkins' lab and the man responsible for experimenting on children with psychic abilities, including Eleven. Brenner's manipulation and emotional abuse defined much of Eleven's trauma. He vanished after Season 1, presumed dead, but reappeared in Season 4, running a secret facility in the desert where he attempted to restore Eleven's powers. Despite his insistence that his actions were for her protection, his obsession with control never faded. When military forces raided the base, Brenner tried to flee with Eleven, but was shot and fatally wounded. As he bled out, he freed her from her collar and begged her to understand that he was only trying to help. Eleven's silence in response underscored his moral failure, a man who believed he was saving the world but couldn't save his own soul. Benny Hammond. Benny's death in Season 1 set the tone for how ruthless Hawkins' lab and its agents were willing to be. He was a local diner owner, the first person to show Eleven compassion after she escaped the facility. Benny gave her food, shelter, and kindness, unaware of the danger that followed her. When he contacted social services to get her help, he unknowingly exposed her location to Dr. Brenner's agents. One of them, Connie Frazier, arrived at his diner posing as a government worker. Moments later, Benny was executed with a gunshot to the head. His murder erased the first act of kindness Eleven ever received and served as the audience's first real look at the human cost of the lab's secrecy. Connie Frazier. Connie appeared only briefly, but made a lasting impact as one of the first true antagonists. She was a government operative tasked with retrieving Eleven and silencing anyone connected to her escape. Operating under Dr. Brenner, she used deception, posing as a social worker, to locate witnesses and eliminate them. During the school confrontation in Season 1, Connie's team cornered Eleven and her friends. When it became clear they planned to kill rather than capture, Eleven unleashed her telekinetic power. Connie's violent death marked the first time viewers witnessed the full, lethal extent of Eleven's abilities, shifting the perception of her from a victim to a weapon capable of unimaginable force. Alexei. Alexei, the Russian scientist introduced in Season 3, represented the blurred line between enemy and victim. He was forced by Soviet authorities to work on reopening the gate to the Upside Down beneath the Starcourt Mall. When captured by Hopper, Joyce, and Murray, Alexei's naive charm quickly made him a fan favorite. Despite being part of the opposition, he showed no loyalty to the regime that controlled him. He enjoyed American cartoons, cherry Slurpees, and simple freedom. His murder at the fun fair by the Russian assassin Grigory was swift and senseless, a reminder that innocence rarely lasts long in Hawkins. His death turned a comedic subplot into a moment of sobering loss, demonstrating how even minor characters could evoke deep emotional impact. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to hit like and subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive.